SCP-3660. The Zoo Zipper. Before we start, please subscribe to join the tribe, like this video and tickle the bell, and all will be well. You all know how the Heartless algorithm works. Or do we? Maybe it could be a future SCP story. Notice from Site-64 Facilities and Containment Administrations. Experimentation with this item has been placed on hold until further notice. Please direct any concerns regarding either SCP-3660 or its co-MARP G2AU authorization to Senior Researcher Dr. Aldrich Hansen, Dr. Milena Lopez, Assistant Director of Facilities, Sophia Turner, Assistant Director of Containment. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-3660 is kept in a standard, secure locker at Site-64. Personnel handling SCP-3660 are required to wear full-body, hazardous material suits. In the event of accidental implantation, local anesthesia may be applied to the surrounding tissue, but SCP-3660 must be surgically removed from the epidermis as soon as possible. Description: SCP-3660 is a black metal zipper, similar to those found on sweaters and backpacks. The item is in poor condition. A significant amount of its paint has been ground off. The metal is warped and half of its slider is missing, appearing wrenched off. SCP-3660 is non-anomalous and inert until it is pressed against the skin of a human being. Tests with animal subjects have yielded no results. The amount of force applied can be disregarded when considering an implantation event. In a manner not dissimilar to magnetic attraction, SCP-3660 will gravitate into the subject if held lightly against their skin. In the event of implantation, SCP-3660 will sink into the flesh until only the pull tab is visible. While subjects have reported feeling an itch at this location, significant pain is rarely reported. Major distress has only been observed in subjects already aware of SCP-3660's effects. Within 10 minutes, SCP-3660 will activate and unzip the host skin by dragging itself across the epidermis before detaching from the skin. While the resultant opening varies in size between subjects and is presumed dependent on the size of the new organism within, it is consistently lined with metallic zipper teeth. This process not only hollows the subject, but also gives their skin the consistency and composition of silicone rubber. Extreme shifts in mass have occurred. What SCP-3660 exactly does with the subject's viscera is currently unknown. As SCP-3660 activates, an animal will be synthesized inside the skin. This transfiguration is instantaneous and, theoretically, would require massive investments of energy. The friction involved in the creation of cells at this speed should generate heat high enough to boil blood and damage cells. SCP-3660 bypasses this process entirely. Beyond a small amount of steam expelled from the skin's opening, there are no indications that energy dynamics have occurred at all. As of redacted experiments, only amniotes, cephalopods, and chondrichthyans have been created by SCP-3660. Utilizing species from other biological groupings is presumed non-viable. Testing as to whether SCP-3660 creates species at random or in accordance to an undiscovered pattern is ongoing is pending approval. While a subject immediately post-transfiguration may initially display shock and/or animalistic behavior attesting to the contrary, the human identity is relatively intact. Transfigured subjects are consistently capable of confirming their identities through various methods such as standard memory tests, simple communication through gestures, and, when applicable, written testimony. However, it is inaccurate to state that SCP-3660 does not fundamentally alter the subject. Transfigured subjects adopt a natural proficiency in operating their new forms. Examples include fin-propelled locomotion in water, winged flight, prehensile tail manipulation, venom injection, courtship rituals, internal heat regulation. Furthermore, subjects may experience the supplanting of specific, albeit now incompatible, aspects of their humanity in order to accommodate species-specific traits. These new instincts and behaviors are not necessarily compulsive nor overpowering. Depending on the individual constitutions of the subjects, human identities can be easily maintained with minimal deviation, even unconsciously so, while others may have their identities steadily eroded away without professional intervention. Currently, the change in diet and mating urges are reported as being the most difficult to resist, according to 94.7% and 59.2% of the cumulative subject pool, respectively. The transformation is, currently, irreversible. Testing into this matter is ongoing. SCP-3660 COMARP integration. The Collaborative Materials and Research Project has accepted Proposal 048, submitted by Dr. Scarcliffe, and this item is now cleared for a COMARP General Acquisition and Use Authorization. As such, subjects transfigured by SCP-3660 may be acquired or temporarily utilized by other research teams. Usage of SCP-3660's subjects, as with other resources with an attached COMARP G2AU authorization, requires satisfaction of the following requirements. Applications for use/acquisition must be provided by the applicant team's senior research personnel and include either long or short-term plans for requested material, depending on the proposed duration of use. Applications must be approved by administrative personnel responsible for the applicant site before submission. Applications that fail this requirement will be automatically denied and the appropriate administration will be notified. The supplying research team must approve the application through the relevant COMARP liaison. For SCP-3660, this is Dr. Stephanie Scarcliffe. Dr. Aldrich Hansen. Incident 3660-2AE01. Incident Report. Following Test 3660-012, Dr. Scarcliffe and Dr. Liverick entered the testing area to measure any compositional changes in SCP-3660. Experimental procedures, current at the time, necessitated only the wearing of gloves and a thorough briefing of how the item was to be handled. Dr. Liverick held SCP-3660 with tongs, and Dr. Scarcliffe gathered data. 3 minutes after interaction began, a high-voltage circuit breaker located several meters away from the testing chamber short-circuited, resulting in a power outage on F-Wing which lasted approximately 10 seconds before backup systems activated. Upon a review of testimonies provided by both parties and character witnesses, Dr. Liverick was determined to have reacted poorly to the sudden loss of light and accompanying noise, described as a small pop by Dr. Scarcliffe, and as a small explosion by Dr. Liverick. SCP-3660 was unintentionally embedded into Dr. Scarcliffe's right cheek. SCP-3660 activated in 3 minutes and 8 seconds. Both parties were treated for shock and king cobra bite, as appropriately. Dr. Liverick has since been reprimanded and reassigned to general research, despite Dr. Hansen's recommendations. Dr. Scarcliffe has been allowed to return to her duties provided she accept routine psychological therapy, evaluations, and the necessary revisions to her employment contract. At the time, surgical removal of SCP-3660 was not understood as an effective countermeasure. This conclusion was reached following later tests. See Test 3660-015. Test Log, SCP-3660/Test 177. Subject, D87026. Male, 34 years old. 2.2 meters tall. 73.2 kilograms. Protocol. Subject was stripped and locked in the center of the testing area via ankle locks. The arms were restrained and research personnel embedded SCP-3660 into the subject's chest. Testing area was evacuated following implantation and the subject was monitored. Results. SCP-3660 activated at 8 minutes and 24 seconds after implanting. At this point, view of SCP-3660 was obstructed by the emergence of a blue whale, causing severe structural damage to the chamber and adjacent substructures. SCP-3660 and D-87026 were successfully recovered during recontainment efforts. Notes: all testing involving SCP-3660 was ordered to cease, and an investigation into Dr. Scarcliffe was initiated following the discovery of discrepancies between Dr. Scarcliffe's unedited experiment logs and those she submitted to SCP-3660's official databank. As per standard reconstruction procedures, a maintenance team was responsible for recovering as much data as possible from Dr. Scarcliffe's personal computer. Interview 3660-ISI-04. Interview log 3660-ISI-04. Interviewer: Senior Researcher Dr. Aldrich Hansen. Interviewed: Researcher Dr. Stephanie Scarcliffe. Forward: interview conducted by Dr. Hansen following the conclusion of the Research and Information Security Administration's investigation and experiment T-177. Dr. Scarcliffe has been given a text-to-speech synthesizer operating on a touchscreen keyboard. Key size has been resized appropriately for Dr. Scarcliffe's snout. Begin log. Dr. Hansen: have you gotten used to the program yet? Dr. Scarcliffe: the program is fine. Voice is robotic. Accent is wrong. Dr. Hansen: it'll do until the custom one is finished. Scarcliffe: I'll be brief. We're stopping experimentation with SCP-3660. Dr. Scarcliffe: no. Why? Dr. Hansen: I hear it has something to do with the whale that materialized in the middle of this facility. Don't flap that hood up at me. Scarcliffe: don't you dare. You want to know what just landed in my inbox over lunch? Or better yet, do you want to know what the containment teams found hidden away in the storage? Animals everywhere. So why don't we talk about concealing experiments? Why don't you give me something to say when the big bad suit comes down here and asks exactly why we're running a zoo down here? Dr. Scarcliffe: tell him he's been to some pathetically small zoos. It's long-term research. All recovered. Dr. Hansen: did we recover them all? No, we're getting rid of them, all 177. For fuck's sake, Steph. My official record states we haven't even reached 80 tests. And I was recommending that you slow down even then. 177 people in less than 2 months. You can shout or hiss long-term research all day long, but I don't buy it for a second. That's a production line. Dr. Scarcliffe: long-term research. Still more to discover. Reversal, maybe. Dr. Hansen: yes, reversal. I know. We've done all the testing we can on that damn zipper after it's used. You might actually get new data if you dedicated your time to studying the subjects already affected rather than by creating your little ecosystem. Dr. Scarcliffe: redundant. I could do that myself by keeping a diary. Look, the Comarp just got new materials. Relevant materials. I've already ordered what I need to add skin graft variable into next 5 tests. Authorize those last tests at least. Dr. Hansen: no, enough. Stop typing and listen to me. The decision to halt experimentation's already been made. If you keep trying to justify why this needs to keep happening, even after all that's happened, I'll be convinced that you've lost it. And I'll happily step out of the way of the shitstorm hurtling right at you. Dr. Scarcliffe: I'm a bloody snake. Hansen: Dr. Hansen: look, Steph, I don't know what it's like to be like you. And I am sorry for what happened. Understand that. If nothing else. Dr. Scarcliffe: not your fault. Twitchy idiot's fault. Dr. Hansen: they wanted to shut you down earlier. You know? We all knew that Zipper's roulette wheel was eventually going to stop on something problematic. I expected the end would come as an apex predator controlled by a mass murderer. Dr. Scarcliffe: personally expected psycho-elephant. Dr. Hansen: how long do king cobras live? Dr. Scarcliffe: not very long. Could be more, provided optimal conditions. Dr. Hansen: do you know how much time you have left? Dr. Scarcliffe: no. Effects of SCP-3660 on lifespan ongoing. Not even necessary if reversal is found. Do not stop experimentation, please. Dr. Hansen: then why would you sabotage yourself by? When the big bad comes down here, I'll talk about mitigation. You have a bit of bargaining credit. Agreeing to donate animals with human intelligence to other teams has given you a small mountain of goodwill, especially from the folks study redacted. But even then, the whale will have to go, obviously. A lot of the others, too. But I might be able to convince the director to allow experimentation with some of the current, low-maintenance subjects. No promises, Dr. Scarcliffe? Thank you, Dr. Hansen. Hold on to that for a bit. If I do get testing to continue, I'll arrange for any pertinent developments to be forwarded to you. Dr. Scarcliffe? Why? I'll be overseeing, Dr. Hansen. No, you won't. SCP-3660 is fundamentally my project, and I don't want you anywhere near it. I'm going to recommend that you be transferred. Where exactly, I don't know, and I can't say I particularly care, but it's better than getting your brain flossed and then being dumped into a reserve in Southeast Asia. You can leave now. Oh, one more thing, Scarcliffe. You don't have to come back to the table. I don't want a response. The people who helped you hide away all those other experiments? They'll be eating the bullet you dodged if I succeed. Keep that in mind, wherever you end up. Now, you can leave. Good luck. End log. Closing statement. Site-64 has since authorized Dr. Hansen's recommendation. 98% of SCP-3660's transfigured subjects are to be either donated to the Comarp or released into the wild following the induced and controlled eradication of the human identity while leaving the animalistic traits intact. Testing with the remaining 2% of transfigured subjects has been allowed to resume once SCP-3660's research team has been appropriately restaffed. Dr. Scarcliffe has been reassigned. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and comment. Subscribe and click the bell icon.